Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Zeldudes podcast. It's been a little while since last time, so we've got a lot to cover. New games, new console, movie details. How are you feeling, Luke?
I mean, yeah, I don't even know where to begin, but I guess we should start off with the new game. It's not a new Zelda game, it's a new Zelda spin-off, that being Age of Imprisonment.
Yeah.
What do you think of the title, man?
Well, I mean, I always find myself trying to say Age of Imprisoning. I think because obviously you had Age of Calamity, which is the Great Calamity, and then you have the Imprisoning War, and then Imprisonment,
which we heard a bajillion times.
Exactly, you hear it so many times, and then Imprisonment is a slightly different word. It kind of doesn't roll off the tongue, but it will. It took me ages to say Breath of the Wild when that was first revealed. I kept saying Breath of the Wind
Tears of the Kingdom
for whatever reason. I was never
Breath of the Wild 2?
I was never a Tears of the Kingdom person. I could do Tears.
Oh no, not that. Just Breath of the Wild 2.
Breath of the Wild 2. Yeah, that took a while to get the I don't know, muscle memory, tongue memory. I don't know, whatever's going on there. Like, yeah. But anyway, Age of Imprisonment. Yeah. I'm really excited, man. Because I know you're in the same boat as me in that Age of Calamity, when it comes to gameplay, isn't your favorite game, but
it's not bad. It's a fun hack and slash.
Maybe you like
like Warriors games.
Maybe you like it more than I do. Then Warriors games, they're not my not my cup of tea.
I see.
But this one, I'm very excited for the story because Age of Calamity's story obviously went off in a weird, different direction. A lot of people were disappointed by how the game was advertised versus what it was actually like.
Yep. No, I'm just like, that's me.
Oh. Okay, fair enough.
I don't raise my hand to speak.
Yeah. But this one, I don't know. We've heard official confirmation that this is canon. So whether that means it will follow the story as we saw it in Tears of the Kingdom or not, I don't know. But I'm kind of,
because
I'm optimistic. I don't know. How do you feel
you
about
can
it?
argue that Age of Calamity is canon and it's just a new timeline, and that's the saved timeline. You know, like how Trunks, future Trunks went into the past and saved a past timeline, but his timeline's still corrupt. You could look at it that way, right? But of course, I'm assuming what Nintendo meant is this game will be canon to Tears of the Kingdom's events, and we're actually gonna get all the story that we didn't get. Because let's be real, even though we got almost 20 memories, they didn't fill in the gaps. It just felt like we were jumping through the story and not enough was really told, especially with like Ganon. I mean, really everyone, even Sonya. I didn't really feel much. I'm sure you didn't when sadly Sonya died, with Ganon just whacking her in the back. I was so brutal. So freaking brutal. I wonder, and it makes me wonder, are we going to see that?
I felt more
in 4K.
In that scene, I felt more of like, that's a Ganondorf cool moment rather than like a Sonya sad moment. I didn't feel sad for her at all. I felt like
you were thinking of
I was getting hyped
the
for
Ganon Falco punch.
Exactly.
You're like, this
the Warlock punch,
the smash attack.
Whereas, you're right. You should have felt both. You should have thought this is cool, but also like pour one out for Sonya. Where we just didn't get time really to get to know her really.
Hopefully this will be it. Yeah, hopefully, like, truly they're not gonna pivot. I'm really hoping we don't get a stupid construct R2D2 that replaces Terrico.
Yeah.
And then say, like, imagine as like Ganon's doing it, you get the construct, and it like saves the day. Please no, just give us the actual story.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm worried, but I'm excited because, again, Nintendo can give us that. I know the argument is, well, Nintendo didn't really lie to us about the marketing. They said it was a story that happened before Breath of the Wild and they didn't confirm anything. But, like, come on, dude. Come on. They baited us. They made it seem. They literally deliberately showed in the first trailer all the champions with the flashing light right before they die. That's usually where, like, Yonobo and all the champions fly in to save the day. But they cut that out so we didn't know. And I don't think it was to surprise us in the story. It was to, again, well, maybe, but like also to give us that plot twist, and that plot twist was very unwelcome. As someone who recently played Age of Calamity to kind of hype myself up for Age of Imprisonment, not a fan of how much Terrico steals the spotlight. It literally disrespects every single character in the Zelda universe with how important he is. They can't even kill the final boss without him coming and saving him after you already destroyed him and he already caused so much issues with the evil version of him and, the Hamburger Ganon, Harbinger. Should call him Hamburger.
Yeah, that'll do.
Yeah. But I mean, and Vegeta Ganon, the Super Saiyan God Vegeta. I do like the design. And
it's cool. Yeah, it's cool.
And that's one good thing that Koei Tecmo does give us. It is a really cool character design. One of the best looking Links is from the original Hyrule Warriors. I love the way the scarf, and it's funny, it's like before even we got the blue scarf, they kind of gave us that design. Right? But yeah, man, I'm worried. What about you in terms of the story? Like, because you're excited for it. What if it's new story? What if it's not Tears of the Kingdom?
Because I feel like maybe I was a little bit too harsh on Hyrule Warriors, like, from the go in this podcast. Whereas, like, the original Hyrule Warriors, I actually really like as a game. Same. I think that's really fun. And, like, obviously, the story is just pure fan service. It's, like, not trying to be a serious Zelda story. It's like, let's just... all
the actual characters from every game literally come together.
It's not... throw a million different Zelda things together, boil it up into this kind of pure fan service stew. I don't know, like, so it knows exactly what it is. And then, but I don't know, the gameplay of it, I actually really enjoy. You know, it's much more I mean, it's been a while since I played it, to be fair, but it felt like much more focused on enemy camps and stuff, whereas Age of Calamity was trying to do a little bit more, but I felt it kind of fell back further in a way, and it just kind of devolved into mindless button mashing a lot, which, I don't know, it's like, it's not what I come to the Zelda series for. I like Zelda series for, like, you know, how the series takes a minute to breathe, you know, and you see Lake Hylia, or like the coming off the Great Plateau. It lets you do things at your own pace. Or Age of Calamity especially is very like go, you know, mash A or B or whatever attack is. I don't know. I haven't played it since 2020. But yeah, like I said at the start, the story, while disappointing in that it went off in its own way, I think largely it's still entertaining. I think it's still a fun story, and like the cutscenes are unbelievable. They're like higher quality than the cutscenes in both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom somehow. Like the quality of the animation and stuff is just fantastic.
Because they weren't pre-rendered. Because Nintendo literally gave us like 720p cutscenes. You can tell they were so desaturated, and even the in-game rendered cutscenes, like the Divine Beast shooting the beam, or like certain things that weren't memories, looked so much better than the pre-rendered, which is the opposite of how usually video games are. Like the pre-rendered cutscenes from Final Fantasy were leagues better.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So that's so like, you know, like you're saying, I think if this is canon, which, you know, they're saying it is, and if you compare how the two games are advertised, so Age of Calamity's first trailer, although it did seem like it was telling the story of the Great Calamity, not like a spin-off Great Calamity, you know, the text in the description, the promotional text says a story set 100 years before Breath of the Wild, for example.
Okay, yeah.
Whereas this trailer makes it very explicit. In the trailer, it says the story leading into Tears of the Kingdom, not a story, not one of the stories.
It's not a story.
It's the story. So I don't know whether I'm just, you know, hopium-brained reading too much into that, or if they are actually going to show us the Imprisoning War. Because also the difference between the Great Calamity and the Imprisoning War is, like, I understand why they didn't go for the Great Calamity, because it's a bummer, right? Like the Great Calamity as a story, it's like the worst event in Hyrule's history. It's like that Hyrule didn't really even get a chance to fight back. There's obviously the siege of Akala Citadel was like the final stand of Hyrule's military. That's probably where they were the most organized, and still they got completely flattened because Ganondorf takes control of the Guardians, the Divine Beasts, which Hyrule wasn't prepared to fight against. They were meant to be on its side. So it kind of, the kingdom fell in one night. It's almost not really a war, which obviously you know, the Dynasty Warriors, Hyrule Warriors games really need a war as a setting. You need these grand scale battles. The Imprisoning War is a full war. You know, it didn't happen in one night, and we didn't see much of it. We kind of see Ganondorf take the Secret Stone, become the Demon King, and then we cut to them planning on the final battle in the Temple of Light, where Rauru imprisons Ganondorf and, you know, sacrifices himself. Everything in between is kind of unknown, but we know how the story ends, and it ends with a Hyrule victory. Obviously, it involves Rauru sacrificing himself, but still Hyrule wins, and Hyrule defeats the Demon King. Whereas Age of Calamity ended in like the biggest L ever for the Kingdom of Hyrule. So like, I can see why they didn't do that for Age of Calamity. Whereas Age of Imprisonment, there you go again. I could imagine them having a full Hyrule Warriors game that just ends in the same way, with Rauru sacrificing himself, imprisoning Ganondorf, and mentioning Link and the Master Sword and then leading into Tears of the Kingdom. I think it does work a lot better than The Great Calamity did as a setting. Again, all of this, I'm going to look back on this podcast, 6 months from now, when we've got, like you said, some like R2D2 constructs changing the timeline, and I'm gonna feel pretty bad about what I'm saying now. But I'm honestly, I think it could work, which gives me more hope that that's the direction they will go.
Yep. Well, I do agree with you, and to play Ganon's advocate,
go for it. Yeah.
I mean, I still generally do agree with you, but in Breath of the Wild, they could have still left us with a little bit, or in Age of Calamity leading to Breath of the Wild, they could have left us with a little bit of hope with, I always imagine the final quest being Zelda, with her goddess form awakened, or her power of the Triforce awakened, bringing the Master Sword back to Korok Forest when it's just hailing enemies and everything, and then she places it back into the pedestal for it to be restored, and before she sets off to seal Calamity Ganon for the 100 years, it just gives us that glimmer of hope of now move on to the next game and continue the story, and that would have been so dope.
That's what I thought they were going to do. Imagine if it ended. Yeah, imagine if the last shot of Age of Calamity was open your eyes, Link wakes up in the shrine, cut to black. It would have been sick.
Literally. That's sadly, but of course. Unlike Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild's memories really did kind of tell us everything we needed to know. So yeah, they didn't have much to work with. If anything, even the new cutscenes they use in that game is just cliches of the character, the simple stuff we got in Breath of the Wild, kind of just extended. Urbosa constantly saying, little bird, or Daruk with the slap on the back, and it's just they didn't really innovate. They didn't want to add. They didn't want to change the characters too much either. So it's they had to play it super safe, and that's why pivoting to a completely alternate reality probably was their best bet. But like you said, with Tears of the Kingdom, there is so much unanswered questions. That was the biggest disappointment, how they just kind of, everything happened all at once, and you really felt the best example is the Sages. We did not get to know anything about them, and we thought they would have been DLC, anything, but they have no names, they have no face, right? Nothing. So it's this is our chance. And since they didn't give us Tears of the Kingdom DLC, literally, we're not going to get a Sages ballad, then this is the Sages ballad.
Exactly.
And they show the roster, they show the group. It looks like, they're gonna actually tell us their story. And again, they don't have to ruin the canon aspect, because there's a lot of unanswered questions this time around. I'm really hoping Ganon as well, similar to the original Hyrule Warriors, how you had later in the story, you played as the enemies, you played as Ganon and Zant and everything. I'm hoping they do that, and you get to see Ganon's perspective with Twin Rova and everything. That would be so dope, because again, a lot more to work with. It would be such a shame for them to actually give us an alternate timeline again, because oh man, this is their chance. This is literally their chance to redeem themselves. This is it. So I'm hoping. I definitely am. But one question that I do want to ask you, and I feel like a lot of for me at least, it does worry me in terms of the canon aspect, is how are they going to make this game without Link? I mean, Echoes of Wisdom was the first Zelda game where, Link wasn't the main character we played as. I know this is a Hyrule Warriors game, but can they really give us a game without Link? Link cannot be in this.
Yeah.
He can't. He's not a part of the Age of Imprisonment.
Exactly.
He's all the way in the present.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my theory here...
Yeah, go on. Give me a theory.
Ahead.
No, give me a theory.
Okay. My theory is either he's a completion bonus character.
Yeah.
That would make a lot of sense, because we don't really question the lore implications.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Or the Offspring. And I want to hear your theories on that. Do you think we're going to play as the ugly dog, or whatever this, because technically this character should be the hero of Age of Calamity's true origin, the tapestry that they knew was going to happen again, right?
Before Breath of the Wild.
And we don't know how far that is between the Age of Imprisonment, so it just makes you wonder, because by then the Sheik had dominated.
Yeah.
The Zonai were long gone, so it can't be him either. I mean, that's the thing. So many loose ends. So what's your theory behind this?
Yeah, well, it is interesting in that obviously this isn't a proper Zelda game, but it is interesting that now we're going to get 2 back-to-back Zelda games without Link as the main protagonist, which is quite cool, and I really hope you're right. I hope they don't pull something where they pull Link from the future through time travel to come and fight in this war, because this isn't his time period. This is Zelda's half of Tears of the Kingdom, and then Link has, Tears of the Kingdom itself to kind of finish the job and defeat Ganondorf in the present. I really hope there's no Link in this. But yeah, I've seen discussion about, I love how almost everyone who's listening to this will have understood exactly who you meant by ugly dog before you even went into explaining who the ugly dog was. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people talk about the ancient hero, because that's a really interesting one, because you're right in that Impa and a few other characters will mention, when you put on the ancient heroes aspect, they'll say, oh, you're dressed as the ancient hero, you look exactly like the hero from the tapestry, because he's clearly meant to be the one who saved Hyrule 10,000 years before Breath of the Wild, where like we can presume that was the first use of the divine beasts and the guardians, where they worked as intended and suppressed Calamity Ganon, and then he learned from that, and the Great Calamity happened. But then there are so that places him 10,000 years before Breath of the Wild, which is X number of years after the Imprisoning War, long time, thousands of years probably after the Imprisoning War. But then there are weird things about him, like he wears Zonai armor rather than kind of Sheikah era tech. So he's kind of an anachronism in that he's out of time wherever you place him. Like in any time period, he doesn't seem to fit. So maybe that's, one of my big hopes for Age of Imprisonment is we do get some answers for what he is. I don't think that maybe he'll be present in the game because, like I said, he isn't in. He would be out of his time period if he does appear. But I'd like some, I don't know, just what race is he? Like, what is he meant to be?
Is he a hybrid? Is he really Sonia's and Raru's baby? Because he doesn't even look like either of them. Exactly. He looks like a completely different species.
And he's got a tail and like... He's very weird, which anything is one of those things. It's like the more you look at him and the more you think about him, the more confusing he gets. Like you notice new weird things about him. I'd like to see his mystery answered a little bit somehow in Age of Imprisonment. I don't know what that looks like, but yeah, I don't think he will be playable, nor do I think he should be playable. And I don't really want a Link analog. If anything, the Link analog in this game should be Raru, right? He's the kind of
the Ultra Hand.
The Ultra Hand. He uses the Ultra Hand. He's got the light powers as opposed to Link's Master Sword, which can repel evil. I've always thought as well that Raru's theme in Tears of the Kingdom is kind of a little breakdown of the main Zelda theme. I'm not very musical. I was going to try and hum it then, but I'd completely butcher it. But if anyone's listening to this and they can kind of hear whatever his theme in their heads, it does sound a little bit like the first notes of the Zelda theme, and I've always wondered if he's kind of Link coded in a way. So I think he could fill that role as like the main fighty protagonist, whereas Zelda's more of a magic user role. But yeah, I don't think we should have Link in this game. It's just not his time. But in general, I'm really excited just to see Raru's Hyrule. Like there's one, you probably noticed it as well in the reveal trailer, there's one really interesting moment where you get Raru and Sonia. You get a cutscene of
Zelda.
Them. There's almost exactly
walking behind him.
Exactly, yeah. And the cutscenes, it's
looks
almost
like
exactly like the cutscene in Tears of the Kingdom, the one where Zelda first wakes up in the past. But it
looks interactive. They do not make it look like a cutscene,
right?
Yeah.
And you see Zelda walking behind them. Yeah. Go on.
Yep. So many people were baited by that, but like the second, it's funny because we reacted to it together. The second we saw Koei Tecmo, it all clicked. It literally all like, this is it. And then you see the tapestry or the mural. Yeah. But in 4K or at least in way better quality than we see in Tears of the Kingdom. And immediately we both knew it was another Warriors game, but apparently a lot of people were actually fooled and felt like they were jebaited until they saw the Hyrule Warriors logo at the very end.
I bet they were bummed when they saw the gameplay.
Right? Because they probably thought, oh, this is actually a sequel. But come on, you think Koei Tecmo is going to develop the actual sequel? Like, bruh, that ain't happening.
I don't know if you played any of the other Koei Tecmo games since Age of Calamity. I know there was 3 Hopes or something, the Fire Emblem one.
Yep.
Yeah, you played that.
Yes.
Okay, so I've heard.
I genuinely do enjoy them. Like they're all hack and slash.
Yeah.
If you're a Zelda fan and you come into these games, you're going to be disappointed in the gameplay. But again, what makes these games so special, like you mentioned, the music, the atmosphere. I genuinely do think that, Age of Calamity, like outside of the story, it offers so much in terms of like Breath of the Wild fan service that it just genuinely is so like nice to open up, see the map. I think I know you argued that the original Hyrule Warriors was genuinely better in terms of like gameplay, but I genuinely did enjoy actually having to, you know, go through all the quests in different levels through Age of Calamity versus like Hyrule Warriors Adventure Mode. That was so lackluster. There was way too much content. It was bloated. I never beat it. I could never 100% it because there's a map for every single area. And while it was cool, the way they did it with kind of like the Sheikah Slate menu right,
I think
it was perfection.
I think where I'm coming from with that is more that like the core minute-to-minute gameplay I prefer in Hyrule Warriors. Like
really?
Hyrule Warriors.
I mean, I can even argue that because the Sheikah Slate, like having to break their weak point was a lot more fun than the Dongos having to throw bombs or
really? I preferred that. I don't know. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, that's where we're divided. I guess.
Yeah. But anyway, so it's good. So you played the Fire Emblem one, but I've heard, so I haven't played it, but I've heard that has sort of a hub area where there's no crazy battles, no enemies, whatever. You can kind of take a breather, which you can't really do in Warriors games at all. I really hope that's a thing for this, you know, because one of the things I'm most excited for about this game is just seeing Raru's Hyrule, because obviously we got glimpses of it through the memories, but then we didn't really get to experience it. Like his castle, we only see the inside of it really in the memories. There's one glimpse we can see in a different memory where Zelda eats the secret stone. We can kind of see it in the distance. But we never really get to experience that properly. And obviously, if you go through Masterworks, you see so much care went into designing this time period and what Hyrule looked like. And it kind of feels like a shame how little we get to see it in Tears of the Kingdom. So I'm hoping that there are periods where, you know, there are no enemies. Maybe there is a central hub area. And we could just kind of soak it in, you know, this Hyrule in the distant past. It'd be so cool.
Not just through like stages, because don't get me wrong, it was nice to like revisit the Great Plateau when it was still for the most part, you know, intact. But like with the way the camera angle works, with your minimal gameplay, with how you can't climb or really actually interact with outside of like what they let you play in, it's not the same. But it was nice, but I'm hoping that's not the only way we experience this prehistoric Hyrule. You get what I'm saying? Like the OG. New Hyrule, as they dubbed it, or it's just, you know, again, the timeline, it's confusing, but all we know is it's after at least every other Zelda game, right? You're definitely on that boat, because I know that's also something contested.
Yeah, that's usually where I stand, because not to derail this into a timeline thing, I think that just because then you don't have to believe that in Ocarina of Time there was simultaneously two Ganondorfs, right? Because if you place Raru's Hyrule before games like Ocarina of Time, you then need to believe that he was underground sealed, while on the surface there was another Ganondorf doing Ocarina of Time Ganondorf stuff, which I don't like. It's messy. Obviously also the refounding theory, which is that Raru's Hyrule was founded after all of the other Hyrules have, you know, faded and decayed and been forgotten. That's also messy. You know, I don't really love that either, but I think that makes it easier to believe. But, you know, I'm open to be convinced either way if we get more lore in this game, which, you know, seems to be the case, which I'm really excited for. And especially just seeing the kingdom, because whereas you had Breath of the Wild's memories, which were also a really limited look into that time period, but then they were bolstered, like they were supported by the fact that Link then explores that Hyrule just 100 years on. So you get all the environmental storytelling. You get, you know, you see that a little memory at Fort Hateno where Link, you know, almost dies and Zelda's powers awaken. But then in the present, you can go and visit the ruins of Fort Hateno, and you see the Guardians frozen, like halfway climbing the walls and stuff, and it fills in the gaps. Whereas Raru's Hyrule, is so far before anything. And the Sky Islands
there
did
can
so
be no
little
connection
in the way of environmental storytelling. You don't get to connect with his world in the same way in the present as you did with Hyrule in Breath of the Wild. So I think that's the number one thing I'm most excited for in Age of Imprisonment, is just seeing this world and learning more about how Raru's how was Zonai technology integrated in it. I'm really excited to see that, because obviously we see that little clip of Minoru in the depths fighting a Phrox. And she uses the seized construct, which is really cool. The boss you fight in the Spirit Temple, because she mentions when you fight that in Tears of the Kingdom, she says, "I built this ages ago," or so, I don't know, like something along those lines. And now she seems to be using that in Age of Calamity, which is really cool. And yeah, I don't know. How do you feel about that? Just
no, I'm excited. Yeah. I'm just worried that Nintendo left too many gaps that it's gonna be hard. Because low-key, I'm hoping we also get like, and this is a reach, but like how we have the like Frostbite set or the Ember set or the Charge set, I believe is the name. Of the 3 dragons. Like, what if? Okay, clearly those were representations of the goddesses, right? In Zonai form, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's it. Because
what if they ate secret stones and turned into dragons?
Right? Isn't it? If we see if we see the demon dragon and the light dragon are Ganondorf and Zelda having consumed their secret stones, they become dragons. You have to look at what Dinral, Nader, and Farosh as the same thing, right? We've seen the origin of some dragons. It's not a huge leap to imagine the others were that way as well. And yeah, we get what might have been their robes if they were kind of ancient Zonai. I wonder if they were more, like in like the oracles. I was thinking, what are they called in the oracle games? Yeah, the oracles themselves. You get
the oracles.
Yeah, right. Who are kind of like mortal incarnations of the goddesses in a way, like something like that. I think, and they, gained eternal life so they could watch over the springs or something forever. Because, like for Minoru to know that consuming a secret stone is to lose oneself or whatever, there's that,
she's probably witnessed it.
Exactly, right? It must have happened before for people to know what would have happened, what happens if you eat a secret stone, which... I don't know. I'm really excited to see that. Just kind of filling in some of Tears of the Kingdom's mysteries could be really cool. Like things about, what the origins of the depths, the kind of nature of the depths itself, Ganondorf's history as the king of the Gerudo, because we didn't really see that.
Right.
You already mentioned Twin Rova. Yeah, I can't wait to see it. Yeah, exactly. Right. I'm really excited.
And the whole idea of, so there's a Gerudo sage that has been appointed by Rauru to take one of the secret stones, but then Ganondorf has his own, like, is the Gerudo already divided?
Yeah.
Or is this after Ganon turned on them that some Gerudo sided with, like, there's too much, dude, yeah. To end on, like, a positive note with this discussion, I mean, I know we both, it better be canon, but if it isn't, I guess at least at the end of the day, we're getting more just Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom context, and even if it's not canon lore, it's just more to explore, and that's going to be exciting nonetheless. But like, I really hope Koei Tecmo learned from how the original Age of Calamity went and are just going to give us what we want. Because what if every Hyrule Warriors game is just meant to be a spin-off and not an actual canonical telling of any of the Zelda games? It's just supposed to have fun with it, but Tears of the Kingdom does not need that. Okay, we'll argue that maybe Age of Calamity could have benefited with it. Okay, not Tears of the Kingdom. You gotta give us the story.
I completely agree. I think to wrap off this little discussion, I really hope it is canon, but if it isn't, I know I'll be entertained by the story regardless.
Good music, cutscenes.
Exactly. We can agree to disagree on the actual gameplay, maybe, but the story, at least, I know I'll like, whether or not it is canon. But yeah, very interesting. But obviously, we've kind of talked about Age of Imprisonment without talking about what we'll be playing Age of Imprisonment on. Because the last time we did a podcast, we hadn't had the Switch 2 Direct, so we know a hell of a lot more about this system than we did then. So, I don't know, just first thoughts, initial thoughts, Switch 2, how are you feeling?
Okay. It's very controversial, the Switch 2, debate
it is.
Currently, and I don't know if it's just people agreeing with the masses or if it's genuinely because I look at it as sort of a double standard. Nintendo is giving us the next generation console, and in my eyes, I obviously I would love to pay around the original Switch price, $350, $400, but yeah, it's gonna be $50, even more than that, just to get the base model. And I'm excited nonetheless, because I know this is gonna carry me forward for another almost decade, because the Switch 1 has done exactly that. And while it isn't the best specs, and it's not really competing with actual modern, hardware that it's other gaming hardware. It's still a Switch. I feel like people are forgetting it's a hybrid. It's not gonna. It can never be as powerful.
Yeah.
But like with what they're giving us, I'm excited for it. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait. I mean, we'll probably touch on the whole pricing thing in a little bit, but like as the console, like properly, but like the console itself, I'm over the moon with it. I love it. It's right. I went hands on with it last week, and like,
true.
It's exactly what you'd imagine in that it's such a non-Nintendo move in that there's nothing crazy about it. There's no weird new Nintendo bizarre stuff.
Well, technically, there's a mouse gimmick. Don't forget that.
There is the mouse gimmick, which I tried
so
that
I'm
as
gonna
well.
argue
and
that.
It's all right, except I don't know. Like I've got quite big hands, and I don't. You gotta like really wrap your hand around it, which I didn't like. But in terms of accuracy, it's good. But yeah, the Switch itself.
And you don't have to use it.
You don't have to use it. But
it's not like the Wiimote. It ain't no Wiimote.
That's true. Yeah, you're not forced to use that for like all of the packing games or whatever. But yeah, the Switch 2, I don't know. I love the console in that it's a more powerful Switch. I don't know. What were you expecting? What else did you want? That's what it is.
Right.
It's just bizarre to see first-party Nintendo games play in like such insane quality. Like Mario Kart
True
World
HD.
Looks unbelievably good. Like we might have said on the podcast before that I've always thought since it came out up until like now that Mario Kart 8 is one of the best looking Nintendo games of all time. I just think it's absolutely gorgeous. And I know there was a load of tricks to get it to look that good on the Wii U. I think like a lot of the lighting is like pre-rendered and it's part of the environment rather than kind of dynamic stuff, which allows them to save a lot of processing power or whatever. But then I was always a little bit, not worried, but like wondering how they top that for Mario Kart World. And I think when we first got the little glimpse of it in the Switch 2 teaser back in January, I was like, it looks good, but like, considering how good Mario Kart 8 looks, I was ready for my mind to be blown. But then, I don't know, playing Mario Kart World on a 4K television when it's in your hands, my mind was sufficiently blown. Like this system, like Nintendo games, I don't know, they're finally caught up with the rest of gaming in that, it's 4K, it can run 60, even 120 frames a second in some instances. And I'm so happy. Like, obviously we'll get onto what that means for Zelda soon, but like, go on, you got something to say. But no,
as hands-on to kind of add to what you're saying, let's put an end to this debate as well. So many people are upset that, it's not OLED. I didn't know how many OLED snobs there were. I like OLED just as much as the next guy, but like with the HDR, how is it like compared to an actual OLED? I feel like the contrast, it's vivid enough to like not really make that argument whatsoever, right?
It's way better than the OLED screen. It's like, I know,
right? Okay.
Like you said, the HDR. So the HDR gives you that depth that the OLED screen has. I know, obviously, it probably won't be as. The blacks won't be as pure black as an OLED.
Yeah, like in the dark.
Like,
it won't be just actually turned off. The pixels,
So you won't get that. But then I think that minor sacrifice versus all of the upgrades. So like you said, the HDR, but also a 1080p screen on the handheld. Obviously, when it's I don't know how far do you have a Switch from your face? I don't know, 18 inches or something. Like not very far.
Okay.
1080p is more than enough to get like every ounce of detail you need at that distance, and I was worried. I was worried that it was going to be a downgrade or like maybe a side grade from the OLED screen. It's like, it's not OLED, but we'll get advantages in this way. Overall, it's a big jump forward. It is way, way better overall, which I was worried about. So I'm happy that that's the case. I played most of the games I got hands-on with. I had a little go on the handheld mode as well, and it's so gorgeous. It looks so good. Yeah, but like speaking of games that look good, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, man, they look insane. It's
right.
I mean,
we're never going back.
Exactly. Like, obviously, there are ways to play Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom already in 4K or whatever. And it looks like
you gotta line back it.
Yeah, exactly. You got to line back it. Yeah, it looks like that. It looks like an emulated copy of Breath of the Wild, which running on actual Nintendo hardware is crazy. Like it's insane to see that. And I know a lot of people were a little bit disappointed that it is just the same games but in a higher resolution with a smoother frame rate. But I don't know. They look so good anyway. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, that having them kind of not restricted by the hardware, that's all you really need, right?
Yeah. No, 100%. It looks so good. It's like Korok Forest, I'm still in disbelief because my brain has gotten so accustomed to it lagging that that's just how I imagine it is. I just think it's a choppy area, but like, no, you genuinely get to see it just flow. It literally looks like someone took the footage and sped it up without really speeding it. You know what I mean? Like kind of that AI.
Like interpolating, like adding frames where they didn't exist before.
Right?
Yeah. Because
that's
like
the
the Korok Forest, there's other times in the game where I'm like, my brain is like prepared for a little bit of lag. Yep. You know, like when you knock a Guardian over and its legs are like doing that in the air, and on actual Breath of the Wild, it drops to like 15 frames a second or something when you're like properly smashing a Guardian. Seeing that run smooth is crazy. I didn't get a chance, but I wanted to go and, you know, in the Colosseum ruins, there's a Lionel that has a flame blade. And because it's like a Lionel-sized flame blade, when you flurry rush that, because of all the fire particles on the screen, it drops to like, it's like 3 frames a second or so. It's like the slowest thing ever. I really wanted to see how that ran. But then obviously the treehouse showed things like when you dive from a sky island down into the depths, it no longer does that weird pause thing that the original version does when it's loading another map.
You mentioned you wind bombed.
Yeah, I wanted to see that.
Did that?
Yeah,
did you get it like a lag?
I don't know whether, because I'm not very good at wind bombs, so I don't know if I don't know if I got to top speed, but you know, if you do in Breath of the Wild, you'll fly and then the whole world will pause.
Pauses you.
And then it will keep going and then maybe pause again. It didn't do any of that. Maybe I scuffed it, but I don't know. I assume it wouldn't do that because it doesn't freeze when you go into the depths and Tears of the Kingdom, and that's the kind of the same thing that's happening, is that like Link's moving faster than the world generation can happen. But yeah, like overall, I'm so excited to play them. Are you gonna run through another playthrough of both games?
I have to, and it's not even just the fact that it's upscaled. It's Zelda Notes, the new feature, the companion app, the true Sheikah Slate Purapad we're gonna be able to use on our phone. It's insane, the stuff they added, and it makes you like kind of wish Nintendo should have added this from day one, because there are so many features they are adding. It's kind of crazy, and they're putting it all locked behind your phone, so you're gonna need another device that, you know, has nothing to do with Nintendo. But like, I'm happy with it, because that alone is going to make me want to replay, not only from the lore, like, you know, that we're going to get new information from all the sages and champions, because I believe it's both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. They only showed Tears of the Kingdom.
They only showed Tears of the Kingdom, but yeah, they've confirmed it. So it's Breath of the Wild. We've got Zelda, her voice notes, voice memories all across the world. Then in Tears of the Kingdom, we've got Zelda again on the surface, which is going to be interesting that they've got the same character doing the same. I assume it'll be different points of interest, or, you know, maybe talking about how Hyrule's rebuilt or something like that. And then in the Sky Islands, you've got Raru's voice. And then in the depths, you've got Master Koga's voice, which, you know, really interesting. Yeah. So I'm really excited to see that. In the same way as Age of Imprisonment, you know, just kind of maybe filling in some of the cracks in the lore of these two games. Obviously, you know, I imagine that's what you're. You know.
Yeah, I imagine that's what you're most excited for. For me, I'll be honest. It's sharing finally you can share your builds. Right. Like, that's something I love doing. You know, I've built Gundams, I've built some weird ass stuff, and I've seen so many creative builds I always wanted to download or replicate myself. Finally, we can do that. Like, to me, that is so, how is that not a feature from day one? And it is a shame that you need a mobile device. Again, they should have all have it integrated in the actual Switch too.
I agree,
But like, it's fine. At least it's gonna make it worth like, you know, just actually going out of your way to do so, because yeah, to me, I'm so hyped. You can even repair weapons. Like, they're really trying to give you a reason into wanting to get the Switch 2 edition. And I do understand the argument that, like, yeah, you know, why are we paying for something that just should be a free upgrade? Like, are we really, like, because, and they're not, but we should first kind of, you know, correct the misconception, because I feel like a lot of people literally think, oh, I'm going to pay $70 for the game again, even though I have it on my Switch. No, if you own the game already, you can download it, but you have to pay an additional, like, Switch 2 upgrade fee, which I'm not defending. I think that's still a bit much, but at least Nintendo, the silver lining is at least Nintendo Switch Online Expansion Pass members get the upgrade for free. So if you bought the game, or you have the physical cartridge and you have the DLC and all of that, like, pre-purchased on your Switch 1, it should just integrate like that, there shouldn't be any issues.
It seems to be like, obviously we can touch more on Switch 2 pricing in a little bit, but like it seems to be, you know, and obviously it is Nintendo's fault that there's so much confusion because they've really dropped the ball on kind of, you know, communicating the pricing structures of different things. Not having them in the Direct itself was an odd move in that it's led to a lot of confusion. Misconceptions have spread further than they should have done. But yeah, it seems that with Switch 2 versions of games, the pricing will be, if there's no new content, only upscales and better FPSs, that's free. So that's like games like Mario Odyssey, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, not Kirby.
It needs that.
Yeah, it needs that. The other Zeldas, so like Link's Awakening, Echoes of Wisdom, stuff like that's free.
Yep.
Then it seems that when they're adding a little bit of new content, they're charging $10. So like, whether or not you think that a mobile app integration is worth $10, you know, that's completely up to you. But that seems to be their logic for that. And then they're charging $20 for like something more substantial. You know, like Mario Party Jamboree has got that face mode.
Oh yeah, actual additional content.
Yeah, Kirby's got like a full DLC thing, and like, yeah, that seems to be the pricing structure. But yeah, so it does. If you already own the game, you'll get it for free if you're on Nintendo Switch Online expansion. Otherwise, you have to pay $10. A big problem, you know, it is disappointing that the DLC isn't included if you buy the Switch 2 version of Breath of the Wild outright. Because it feels like it's an Ultimate Edition, which, you know, industry standard for that is you include all the DLC as well. Does seem weird,
especially when it's 8 years old.
Yeah, right.
Like,
I assume
they usually charge you. The Game of the Year edition should have existed.
Yeah,
where's the Game of the Year edition?
Yeah,
right. And that should have came with the DLC, $60. But yeah, and Nintendo's different. You know, they're the Apple of gaming. They do things their way. They don't copy.
If they can charge you, they will charge you. I assume that if you own the DLC, it'll already be on your Nintendo account, so it'll unlock. I'd be really surprised if that wasn't the case.
Yes.
I'm almost certain that will be the. You know.
I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah. Because like you already paid for it. There's no way they're gonna be like, well, you can have the game for free. You just need to pay us $10 for the update, and you know what? Give us $20 for the DLC on top of it. Yeah. Or is it $30?
Is
there 20, right?
20, I think. Yeah. It's been a while since I paid for that. But
true.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the case. But yeah, like Zelda notes, whether or not you think it's worth $10, and whether or not you're happy that it's a mobile game rather than something integrated in, you know, the actual game itself. There's still, I don't know, there's cool stuff that, like you said, should have been in it at launch. Auto build sharing, I think, would have really helped the game's longevity, because like Breath of the Wild, one of the things that made that go so viral was that something crazy happened in the world. Yeah, you share the clip, put it on Twitter, it goes, you know, it blows up. Then Tears of the Kingdom, you had the same things happening where you had like some crazy Japanese guy builds Godzilla out of Zonai things, and it's amazing. And it gets to the point where like I think Aonuma and a couple of the other developers like commented on the Godzilla thing, and like the things that people were building. It's like, it's crazy. If only auto build sharing existed then, and you know, on that video that they'd shared, there's a little QR code. Scan that, get Godzilla in your game. It just seems really weird. That now it's an afterthought that they're adding that, but I'm so glad they are, because I think it'll really help the game.
It will breathe new life.
Yeah, for sure.
Into the game.
Exactly, and like
I was saying, whoever makes the perfect Master Cycle Zero, please share that. I can never align it.
Mine
perfectly.
Always goes slightly left or slightly right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Someone give me the proper. I know someone out there is talented enough to make it. Hook me up.
Exactly. Then there's like item sharing as well, which. It's kind of interesting.
Between files? Like, imagine starting a new file and giving yourself the strongest weapons? That is so...
You know what is interesting? I noticed one... So obviously, item sharing kind of seems cool overall, in that, like, I don't know, if you know, I was at Luke's house and he was doing the rebuilding Tarrytown quest, and he's like, I don't want to go and cut all these trees, and I'm like, I've got... 100 loads of bundles of wood. I'll send them over to you. But one thing that is really interesting is on the Nintendo website, there's like fine print, and it says something along the lines of, some items sent from Tears of the Kingdom will be converted to different items when received in Breath of the Wild. Which means some items you'll be able to send between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, which is really interesting. I assume, if you've got say a royal claymore fused with like a moblin horn, they'll just lose the moblin horn when you take over to like things that don't exist in Breath of the Wild, right?
Or like a Zonai charge.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Will be like
things like that, probably just
Guardian
Sheikah,
core.
Yeah, exactly.
Or something.
Yeah, so I assume that'll be the case. But still, that's really interesting that there's like connectivity between the games, not just different save files of the same ones, which I didn't expect them to do.
And repair. And gacha again. Like we thought the Zonai gambling machines were all we're gonna get. Now we're getting a daily like kind of pull prize type reward. I'm happy with all the stuff we're getting, but it does seem like they were definitely kind of pulling out what would really make this worth repackaging as another Switch 2 edition.
For sure.
But it doesn't matter. It should have been in the original game. At least we're getting.
How'd you feel about the GPS mode? I think it's so corny. I don't know. Like
I agree. I just think the biggest issue is why are they using like some actual like Google Maps AI voice?
That's the thing I think is bad. It's like at the Temple of Time, turn left. Like why?
Right?
Why not one of the any number of voice actors?
You must go right. Yeah. Jump. No. Save Hyrule.
That'd get more annoying. I think. But it seems so
should
weird.
Have been.
Yeah, it seems so.
It should have been some Zelda voice.
Yeah,
and maybe I get the idea of like because it literally is AI, it's gonna generate its own text. But it's like, I mean, there's only so many ways to describe where to go direction-wise. They could have had him record it and had it like kind of auto-generate the proper things to say without it being like just a generic or like even make an AI voice of these characters. We have the tech to do that, right? Like where they literally put in the voice and...
I don't know, was it actually confirmed that this is like a kind of actual AI voice doing it, or is it like...
No, but like it's so generic it doesn't matter.
Voice. I see what you mean, yeah. Whereas like, because like sat-navs and stuff have existed long before any kind of proper intelligent voice systems or whatever. But like, you can get, I don't know, you can get Gordon Ramsay telling you directions, where obviously he'll have gone into a studio and recorded, like, you donkey, turn left, and like, whereas... He didn't record every single possible street name or whatever. It's like they can make it work based on the things they've got. Yeah, it seems weird that they didn't have an actual voice actor from one of these games do it. Like, it would make so much sense, maybe not if it's in Breath of the Wild, but in Tears of the Kingdom to have like Mineru's voice, where... Purah, yeah.
Well, her spirit is in the thing.
Exactly. Purah could work as well. Yeah. I see what you mean.
Yeah. Linky, go here!
Yeah, right. But yeah, it seems very weird. I do like... I don't think I'll use it, but I kind of like that there's a way to get all Korok seeds, if you want to do that, in the game itself, or in a mobile app connected to the game itself.
Zelda maps, I'm sorry, you're no longer useful. Screw you.
Because I don't know, I mean, there probably are some like sadists that have done it, but I don't know anyone who's 100%ed either of these games without looking something up, because there's it's ridiculous, right? Where like there's so many of these things.
There's Korok seeds.
Yeah, just
if you understand Korok seeds,
you can do the shrines.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, exactly. You need to look them up, I think. So it is cool that now there's an official like Nintended way to do it using this app, because you can obviously you can set go to Hyrule Castle, but you can also set find undiscovered Korok seeds or whatever, and it'll kind of point you in that direction. So it's kind of cool that that's in the game. I do just think overall it's pretty corny. I don't know. It's not my favorite addition.
And true. And if you noticed, like I believe in the Treehouse gameplay, it does not update properly. It's kind of like every few seconds you'll see Link's icon change its direction. Because again, it's through the phone. I don't know if it's Bluetooth connectivity or if it's sort of like going back and forth through like a server getting the information. But like, it's again, not integrating it in the actual Switch 2 to me is sadly, like I love the idea. No, truly, my phone will be a Sheikah Slate / Purah pad, but it's not going to be as seamless. Let's just say that. But I'm excited because I always wanted, like, I wish the Wii U kind of committed to, the E3 2016 demo idea where they were going to have literally the Sheikah Slate be the actual like
gamepad.
Or the gamepad be the Sheikah Slate. And imagine if they had the map always on the bottom and kind of like Wind Waker. Remember you want to play Wind Waker HD and you want to sail and you don't want to open up the map, you just have the map open on Wii U and it's just right. So at least we're getting that, but since we don't have the extra peripheral, we don't have like a second screen that comes with our Switch. this is the cheapest, most logical way to look at it. So that's like, again, the silver lining I'm looking at. Like, well, you don't have to imagine if they're actually selling another, like, you know, device that you add as a companion, you know, that would be worse, because now it's going to be even more expensive to be able to utilize it. And everyone has a phone, right? I mean, and speaking of which,
don't threaten me with a good time. You're talking about them selling a real Sheikah Slate. I'll pay any money for that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
But I get what you mean.
I mean, yeah, then they got to make a case. Funny enough, literally speaking of Sheikah Slate, if you those who can't tell, this is kind of pivoting a little bit, but I want to mention it real quick. I'm in Taiwan. That's why lack of setup, and it hasn't been that easy to make videos, hence why this kind of came out a bit late. Time zones, all of that jazz. But yeah, this is so cool. So Nintendo literally sells like this actual like Sheikah Slate cover, like kind of for your it's pretty much your Metro card. And literally when I go to the Metro, like I literally scan it, like even when I want to pay, because this is kind of universal. Just you put money on it and you can do a bunch of things throughout Taiwan. Everything's integrated with this exact card. So literally I just kind of scan literally like I'm Link everywhere I go. Sick. And it's like, man, right? I wish Nintendo would make like cases and stuff like that. I guess maybe they have for like iPhone, but you know, we're both Android Samsung users.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're right. That would have been nice.
It would. I mean, you kind of touched on it there, but did you want to talk a little bit about Switch 2 pricings and how you feel about that? Feels like that's a hot topic at the moment, definitely. So like,
you go first.
Yes, I mean, I posted my hands-on video, and like, I was I don't know, I was a little bit, not annoyed, but a little bit like disappointed that like half the comments were just about the pricing, and people were like, you're a Nintendo shill, there was no criticism in this video. If there was criticism, I mentioned that I was annoyed that they charged for the Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom remasters and that they didn't include the Breath of the Wild DLC. I did criticize it. But overall, the whole pricing thing has become a way bigger controversy than I thought it would. Obviously, when they announced the prices, they're higher than I think most people expected them to go. I think when they made Tears of the Kingdom a $70 game last generation on the Switch, I think a lot of people thought that was kind of them, you know, testing the waters for the new prices for premium games. So I think a lot of people expected $70 to be the norm for Switch 2, which is kind of industry standard for big, you know, first-party AAA games or whatever now. So I think no one would have batted an eye at $70 across the board. It's mainly the jump to $80 for titles like Mario Kart World that people are really, really shocked about. And then that has then transmorphed into this weird, crazy meltdown about Switch 2 games all costing $90, which isn't the case. There's a nugget of truth to that, as with any kind of internet rumor, in that in other places in the world, not the US, so in Europe and Japan and a few other
currency
places,
is literally different.
The currencies are different, but also Nintendo are, for whatever reason, charging more for physical games. So in a lot of Europe, it's €90 for the physical version of Mario Kart World, which is crazy. And I'm not gonna. There's no way I'm gonna defend that, because if you convert that to dollars for the Americans, that's somewhere about $103. Obviously, the dollar's kind of fluctuating a moment. There's a certain orange-tinted uncertainty around the dollar at the moment. But that's crazy. That's like $100 for a physical copy of a game. That's kind of indefensible pricing, I think. And I myself, when it comes to the Switch 2, I think it's more than I thought it would be, but I think it's relatively reasonable for what we're getting. I think the Switch 2 is a crazy leap in power. I mean, I've seen a few videos from the Digital Foundry and stuff that it's more powerful than a Steam Deck, I'm pretty sure. So right? I think, and for what you get,
base model's 400, bro.
I think for what you get,
have all the bells and whistles a Switch 2
exactly
has.
I think for what you get, the Switch 2 pricing is fine. I think it's expensive, but it's a big investment. It's, like you said earlier, it's something that will last you for years. It's the game prices that are actually kind of a little bit, you know, I'm not too pleased about the jump to $80 for premium titles, mainly because we know that Zelda titles will be considered premium by Nintendo, and we can expect to be paying Mario Kart World prices for them. And it's a shame. I think if it was just communicated a lot better than it was, it would be a smaller controversy. I think still people would be upset because obviously there are reasons for it. You know, there's inflation, there's the new scale of games now, there's the cost of game development, but that doesn't make it any easier for a lot of people to actually pay the extra money. You know, it will make Nintendo games less accessible to a lot of people, where like that $10 increase makes it unaffordable for some people, which, you know, is unfortunate. And I think they really should have communicated it better, so people could kind of understand why the jump happened and whatever, rather than just drop it in like screenshots and like storefronts on Twitter. And like it was so badly handled. And now the kind of arguments around it are so much bigger than they would have been otherwise, and so much bigger than any other discussion of the Switch 2, which is such a shame. And I don't know how you feel overall about this, but
I'm kind of with you on most of this. I'm not too worried though about. I bet you the second the Switch 2 comes out, all of this is gonna be dead in the water. No one's gonna be talking about it. It's definitely just the hot topic.
Yeah.
You know, all the influencers are jumping on the same bandwagon, and just people love an echo chamber. They want to literally hear what they think, and it's like, so for me, I don't really care. If anything, I feel like I'm pretty sure there are a few others who have made videos kind of in defense of Nintendo. I never wanted to do that because, again, I'm defending a billion-dollar company that does not even know, it doesn't acknowledge my existence. If I die tomorrow, who cares? Like, why am I defending them? Literally, if anything, I pay them for their, services, right?
Yeah.
But, yeah, I just think it's kind of blown out of proportion, specifically with the Switch 2, because, again, the argument of, like, okay, since the PS3, I believe, when it first came out, it was like $500 for, like, the stand, like, it wasn't even with the additional hard drive and all of that
so
stuff.
That would be
the PS3,
like
I mean.
600 something today, like, including inflation.
Right,
like,
with inflation. Yeah. So, same goes with the PS4. I mean, the PS5 Pro, literally $700. I do feel like there's a double standard, and I get the double standard towards Nintendo, because it's like, Nintendo has never been on par with current gen hardware, that like people are legit like, I've never paid this much for a Nintendo console. Nintendo has never wanted to charge me this much. Why are they trying to get away with this? But it's like, if you really look at the specs, the details, the stuff you're actually getting out of it, again, it outperforms a Steam Deck. So like that alone makes sense and why it's gonna be more expensive. But yeah, there are shady things Nintendo's doing. Like one thing I cannot defend is the, welcome tour game being locked behind $10. Right?
Who's
like,
buying that? That's gonna be a flop,
the $500.
Right? Yeah.
Or $450. Yeah. You're really gonna lock that feature? Why do you want the extra 10? That makes no sense to me. PlayStation, I mean, literally, I'm using them as an example of upcharging for the console, or like, it's way more expensive than anything. Again, Nintendo Switch, it's a hybrid. It can compete almost with like the PlayStation 5, the Switch 2 that is, but again, you can literally carry it with you. You don't have to pay another $200 for a peripheral that literally just streams the games on it, that being the PS Portal, right? And people didn't even argue that either. Like, there are literally YouTubers who I've seen defend the PS Portal, saying, oh, it's nice. Bro, you cannot even play off of it without being connected to the internet and having a PS5 connected to the internet, and just, it's a streaming thing, you know? And it's like, if you're gonna defend that, and you're really gonna hate on the Switch 2, I can't trust your judgment anymore. That's inconsistent as all hell, you know? But yeah, when it comes to like that, okay, so the main reason why I mentioned that is because, again, PlayStation has had, I believe, like Astro bought like a PS5 tour game that, you can just download for free, and it's meant to really, show you what the PS5 is all about and all the features and the controller and everything. Eventually they made that into its own game, and that won Game of the Year, which is insane. But how the hell does Nintendo, bro? It's so sad. I mean, think about it. The Wii U, we had Miiverse, we had like the Miiverse Plaza, we had all these nice little additional add-ons. The Switch has been so bare bones, and it's a shame because we've already seen the Switch 2 menu. It's literally the Switch 1. It's the exact same thing. Everything is simplified. There's no themes, there's no charm. Nintendo literally lost all that charm, and they don't really need to try to kind of bring that back because they're more successful than they've ever been. So it's like, why? I hate the new concept of how tech is just being so simplified. There's zero like life to it now. Everything looks the same. Everything is just bare bones, like simple, white blank screen.
Things like what's it, like corporate simplicity, or there's a term for like, the old eBay logo, the new eBay logo, like where they,
literally
they kind of smooth everything out and take a lot of the character out of things, and it sucks to see Nintendo.
The 90s, early 2000s charm is dead. Now it's just everything looks the same.
Exactly. Or like the old Mario Kart logo, the new Mario Kart logo, you know what I mean? Like,
Yep, the new Zelda logo.
New Zelda logo. I got roasted on Twitter a while ago for complaining about the new Zelda logo, but you know, different.
Speaking of which,
topic. Yeah.
True. Okay, I'll pivot to something similar to that. An argument that we did. It's not really an argument, but a disagreement we had. But
here we go.
I'm on your side now.
Oh, okay. All right.
yeah, no, I'm on your side. But I mean, just to kind of finish my rant there. But yeah. Don't really understand that sort of direction, but to argue your point about Mario Kart World, I definitely don't think it's worth the price tag of $80 yet. I feel like we do have to play the game before we can definitively say anything, because just like Tears of the Kingdom, I mean, when you look at Breath of the Wild and its DLC, that's still way less content than Tears of the Kingdom standalone.
Yeah.
And it's more expensive. You're going to be paying $80 for that, right? Because it's at least 20 on top of the 60, if even more, right? But Tears of the Kingdom literally had all of that and way more above and below, and the game was genuinely, worth the price. Especially if you didn't play Breath of the Wild. Oh man, you got endless content,
so much,
way more shrines, way more things to do. Yeah, so I feel like that's what Nintendo's looking at now. Like, they're really going above and beyond and trying to make these games so much more complete that they do see it's worth a little bit more than like a standard Nintendo game, that being the premium price tag. So if Mario Kart World is that, and it feels like you get DLC with the base game, or they have free updates or anything, then I can maybe justify it. I mean, you know what I mean?
That's kind of where I am on the whole pricing thing, is that, like, for me personally, I know I will get more than $80 worth of value for this game. I'll get hundreds of hours out of this game, which for me that's worth the price. I'm disappointed to see the jump, but personally it's not going to stop me buying the game. I think I'm going to get more than enough entertainment out of it. And like I said, playing the game, it's amazing. It's so good. Like I played like the knockout mode, which my heart was like, going crazy the whole time. It's just such a good game. I really, really can't wait to see more this Thursday. I don't know whether this podcast will probably come out after the Mario Kart Direct, I'd assume. But like,
true.
I think the game probably will be worth that in terms of hours played. But I understand for a lot of people, they don't want to pay that. They're not going to pay that. That's fair enough. I think with the whole criticism, to like kind of put a bow on it, is I think it's completely fair, and we should have conversations around the pricing, because it's a price increase that should be discussed. A lot of people aren't going to be happy to pay it. I think the only thing that I really don't like about this whole thing is the amount of misinformation. I think there should be legitimate discussions about it, but you need to discuss what Nintendo's actually doing. It's completely fair to criticize, like you said, this billion, what's Nintendo? It's $80 billion or something the company's worth. Like, completely fair to criticize Nintendo for whatever decisions they do make, but I don't think it's fair to criticize them for things they haven't actually done. Like, I don't think you can invent prices and then get annoyed about them. I think that's just doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help, Nintendo see the backlash, because if Nintendo kind of see this level of backlash but think, it's all based on information, they won't care, then they're not going to change. I think you need to actually have discussions about the reality rather than like all this crazy misinformation. But yeah,
we got to bring our boy Reggie back, man. Doug Bowser. Bowser's in the name. He's evil, dude. Like, we get rid. I'm kidding. But Reggie did. I mean, I remember he said he was behind like the 3DS Ambassador program. He always. It's funny. I feel like he was literally kind of advocating for Nintendo to bring down prices to some degree. Even he was kind of a part of that.
He advocated for Wii Sports to be a pack-in the West.
True. Yeah.
With the Wii, which
I bet you if he was the president of LSD Nintendo of America, Welcome Tour would be free.
Yeah.
Our boy Reggie, man.
Yeah.
We miss you.
We do miss it. The Reginator. Yeah. But I felt like you had something else to say before.
True.
In.
Okay, and we forgot. I mean, good thing I'm mentioning this, because let's not forget, that's not the only Zelda games, new-ish Zelda games we're going to be revisiting on the Switch 2. Let's not forget Nintendo Switch 2 Online, GameCube, and that being Wind Waker. Yeah, how do you feel about getting Wind Waker HD, but getting Wind Waker for the GameCube instead?
I mean, I've said before, it's kind of a little bit of a monkey's paw situation, that like we've wished for Wind Waker on the Switch 2. We've got it, but it's the original version. And I know where you're going with this, because I'll let you bring that up. We've had a little discussion before on the graphics side of things. Overall, the HD version, I think, is explicitly better in that, it's widescreen, there's the Swift Sail, there's, again, this obviously wouldn't work on the Switch 2, but the gamepad functionality, sorting your items on the gamepad in real time is great. Gyro aiming, I assume, would have been on Wind Waker HD on the Switch 2, but won't be in this one. Overall, Wind Waker HD is better, but I'll let you bring up what we used to disagree on, but now apparently we don't.
I've seen the light, man. Let's just say that.
Is that a Bloom pun?
Yeah. Unintended. Yeah, no. Literally, because so the whole point is one thing. And before I get into that, I don't think you can give us Nintendo Switch GameCube Online and not still put in the Zelda games. Like, come on. Even if you're gonna re-release it, it's like the whole Super Mario 3D All-Stars. True. Now you can play it on both. And yeah, sure, that game was temporarily available, blah blah blah. But outside of that. It still there's two versions. You can now play like the actual one that you download or the one that you have to actually pay a subscription service for. But yeah, my point is I think it's good that we're going to be able to see the original Wind Waker because outside of the Swift Sale, which I'm not looking forward to, busting out my Wind Waker and playing the Wind's Requiem every 2 seconds, I'm looking forward to the actual OG graphics without the bloom lighting. Because when it first came out, I mean, I was younger. The bloom lighting was cool. It was different. I thought it was really nice. But like as I've gotten older and I revisited the original Wind Waker, it's like it lost all of its charm with the bloom lighting because what made the original Wind Waker timeless is the cel-shaded simplified graphics that looked like 2D animation. Like everything was flat. Was because it was just so contrasty. There's no textures, just simple
Whatever
colors.
Angle you
Adding
look
the bloom
at,
lighting,
it looks like kind of almost paper cutout sort of
2D
thing.
animation.
Yeah.
Yep. But like literally, the bloom lighting ruined that. Like, I think of specifically the cutscene where Link is leaving, waving goodbye to his grandma, and Tetra's like winking at him, and they're kind of interacting. They look so ugly with how you can see the actual like depth in their circle head.
Or there's weird
versus like
bits
the original game
where you like I think when you get an item out of a chest, sometimes the lighting's really weird and yeah.
Yep, and everything just looks so 3D. It looks like. It looks like a game on Unreal Engine. Let's be real, like those Super HD Unreal Engine games.
Nintendo
just,
hired this man.
Too much lighting.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, literally, they did hire the man apparently, but. And then you look at, and it's funny because a lot of people hated Twilight Princess for not getting that, but Twilight Princess actually deserved some new lighting changes.
If the models look more 3D,
is 3D,
it looked fine. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Whereas,
So like now being able to play it actually upscaled natively on official Nintendo hardware and not like my GameCube Mini that I play it on because I do play the original GameCube games on this all the time. But again, Linebecked it. It's not official. Right. But being able to actually see that game in true HD because it is upscaled. I mean, they didn't upscale the the items, you can tell it's kind of pixelated, the map, all of that. That's the same with Ocarina of Time and all of those other games. But you actually genuinely being able to see it that way, it's going to be so nice. And it doesn't mean I don't want the HD version of Wind Waker still eventually ported to the Switch 2. Maybe an actual 4K, true HD, HD 4K. Maybe they can do that because especially those games aren't going to be as powerful. Because I guess that's one also misconception that I fell for when they announced Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom remastered, that being I thought they were going to be in 4K, but apparently they're not. They're going to be in 2K, you could argue, a little over 1080, but not really. Yeah.
So I didn't when I made the hands-on videos, I did a summary of what these versions include, and I deliberately didn't mention the resolution or the frame rate because it's a little bit unclear at the moment. Like we know it's upscaled, but we don't know what resolution it's running at. I think we need like a digital foundry to count each individual pixel or something like that. But yeah. Sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah. No, it's all good. But I do like how they actually updated the textures a little bit, right? Like all the items are going to generally look good for that upscale that we're getting for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. But so my point is, it's nice to be able to see the origin, and because there are significant enough changes from the HD to, the original game, or vice versa, I mean, it's not bad having both, So you're not really paying additional for it. Like if you're already an expansion pass member, you just get it. It is a shame that's locked behind the Switch 2, but I'm just assuming that literally the Switch 1 could not perform GameCube emulation. And that we're gonna need it. So I'm hoping, we still get Wind Waker, Twilight Princess HD. I think the battle's not over. You can still be on that hopium copium. We might actually get it. Maybe it'll be in 4K. Maybe they'll find new integration with Miiverse. That's another reason that would be weird to bring it back without the tingle bottles. I mean, the stamps made no sense. I'm okay with no stamps, but like the Tingle bottles were genuinely so nice, and if they ever do bring it back, and they better have something like it. I'm afraid they're just going to remove the feature entirely if we were to get the 4K version, but that made the game almost feel like an MMO, and I use MMO loosely. I just mean like it felt like there were actual
like
people in the sea.
Connectivity to it,
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Which, especially, Switch 2 does seem to be leaning more. Obviously, there's no Miiverse equivalent, but like they're moving more towards like social gaming with the whole game chat stuff.
Nintendo Discord,
exactly.
We got crappy Discord.
Like 10 frames a second Discord screen sharing or whatever. Yeah.
Right. I like how they showed us that too. They didn't even like doctor the footage and like make it seem like it's way higher quality. Because why not? Yeah. Why would you show us it looking that bad when you're like premiering it? I feel like right. But
I mean, I respect,
I guess.
I don't know. I think like a lot of people, like, obviously Discord's the obvious parallel, and a lot of people say like, why would you use that? Why, if I want to play games, I'll hook it up to Discord and I'll share with my friends. But like, I don't know. I think for a lot of people, that's not a thing that they can do, right? Because you need a capture card, you need a PC. You do need like extra stuff to share your screen, even if it is in 10 frames a second. So I think just making it accessible for a lot of people to be able to just kind of play with other people without, needing a third-party service and things like capture cards and whatever, I think is a good idea. Maybe it's not as big of a thing to have it as like a massive selling point, but I think it's cool overall. And I don't really agree that Discord is, it's made obsolete because Discord exists. I think, having a Nintendo version is always a good thing.
No, trust me, I imagine little kids and older folk, like not in the between range, but like there's a lot of people who still don't use Discord. People act like everybody and their mother. No, your mother's mother probably doesn't use Discord. I can assure you that, okay? So,
exactly.
Yeah, I look at it as like, Nintendo's, and they want their own version of it, They're not gonna try to integrate Discord. I mean, it's funny because they are still giving us, integration through the phone that connects to the, Switch, but like, at least they're trying to give something where they have their own infrastructure, their own like method of doing it. And I do see there will be some benefit to it. I know that. So I feel like people using that Discord argument, it's understandable for you and people that you relate to, but not everyone can relate to that,
Exactly, yeah. That's the thing. Like, if you do have a Discord setup and stuff, you probably will still use that. But for the massive number of people that don't have that option, I think this makes sense. But like, back on Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, I thought, I was surprised a little bit to see Wind Waker joining the GameCube thing, but quite a lot of me thought that it was kind of inevitable at this point, where the Switch 1 for me was the time to put Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD on it now. I don't feel that they can put Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD on the Switch 2, at least not in the same form. Maybe not even upscale to 4K. I think they need to add other stuff than just basically porting Wii U games and reselling them. Even Nintendo, I don't think, hopefully, would do that. I just think it's been so long.
Donkey Kong Country Returns. You sure? Are you sure?
Maybe they will do that. Okay.
Yeah, bro.
I hope that they wouldn't do that. And now, like you said, maybe we would see a version of Twilight Princess that does have some more dynamic lighting. And because Twilight Princess HD, I was a little bit let down by. I liked the chance to play Twilight Princess on my Wii U, with the gamepad and stuff. But like, for the graphics are really not all that. They're just kind of increased textures, and that's about it. Yeah. Like, they've just redone some of the textures. Whereas, it could have had lighting. I think what made Twilight Princess HD in particular more of a problem is that was only a few years after the Wii U tech demo, where you saw Twilight Princess Link fighting Armagoma in the Temple of Time with like gorgeous
still the
lighting
best looking Zelda we've seen yet, even over Breath of the Wild.
It's amazing. Yeah, so I think having that in the back of your mind and then seeing Twilight Princess HD is just, I don't know. I think maybe it's a blessing in disguise that we didn't get on the Switch 2, if it means that we'll get kind of proper remastered versions on the Switch 2. Twilight Princess with better lighting. Maybe Wind Waker without better lighting. I don't know how they'll do that, but like...
I don't think they'll go back with that. Yeah. I mean, because I remember Aonuma, like, that was like a deliberate decision of like, we want to take this game and kind of give it an HD look. Like they literally had like a whole segment in the original Direct when they announced that. Yeah, so I don't know, but like at the same time, I'm still on the hype train of like, we're still gonna get them again, just probably 4K, maybe as a bundle pack or something, like just the HD remasters together. Like I'm still hoping, Grezzo can give us, Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask as well as a bundle, the 3DS versions, but upscaled. I know these games would not look that good today in like 4K or on the big screen, but it's like, I mean, there are so many games that still get ported and just are literally upscaled and they look like trash, but it's like, no one cares because you're looking at the graphic, like the graphics in a different sense. It's meant to be that way. It doesn't need to like change. And I don't know. Yeah, at least I'm still hoping for it. Like, I'll take it if we do get it, of course.
I mean, I wouldn't be disappointed. It's like Wind Waker is the greatest video game ever made, and Twilight Princess is not bad either.
It's the greatest video game ever made.
There you go. So, I'm not going to be upset if I get to play them on my Switch too. It's just kind of part of me thinks now it's been so long, we need to see some new snaz added to them to justify waiting this long. Because it felt like every single Direct throughout the entire lifespan of the Switch 1 was, is this going to be the one? Are we going to see them, like Breath of the Wild 2 still a few years out. Maybe we'll get Wind Waker HD to like tide us over, and it just never happened. So I don't know. I like to think that Nintendo.
You want to give Zelda a special treatment?
Yeah, right?
Yeah, maybe they do. And Zelda always gets it, so maybe I hope you're right as well. I'm open to both, honestly.
Yeah, but either way, it's an exciting position to be in. The start of a new console, like we started at the podcast with Age of Imprisonment, new spin-off Zelda game, and now obviously Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom remastered. But it's just nice to be at the start of a console generation, like the future ahead of you. Somewhere in Nintendo, there's teams of developers working on whatever's next after Tears of the Kingdom, the next big thing, which it's just very exciting to be in this position.
Yep. I'm hoping literally next year it gets announced, or like, whatever it's next. Because I feel like, Age of Imprisonment, I do not expect any Zelda news in between that. Luckily, it was one of those like Echoes of Wisdom and Age of Calamity where they announce it and they're like, it's coming out real soon, the same year.
Exactly.
You don't have to wait long.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I'd like. Zelda needs more of that. We need like smaller budget Zelda games to keep us, out of the drought, something, until like we get the major one. Because the whole again, like I've told you this before, from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, the Wild Saga took 1/4 of Zelda's entirety of like it being out. Like literally 1/4 of all of Zelda's history has been on those two games. Yeah. but it has. The argument is also, the 2019 happened, and that shook up the world. So maybe that's, the reason why, and, hopefully we don't get that again.
Yeah,
and Nintendo crossed. Should be a bit quicker with it.
Yeah. But I like, I'm ready for something completely new, something no one expects. Like, I don't want. This is a whole separate topic, maybe we'll cover another time, but like I don't really want Zelda to go full sci-fi, which is what a lot of people have said, that'd be a cool way to mix it up. But I want something like that, not sci-fi, but something that has the same reaction, like kind of like they're doing that, like something completely crazy.
And Zelda has always done that.
Yeah,
luckily that's Zelda. They always experiment new concepts entirely. No Zelda game is that similar to one another. So I'm not worried. Again, Zelda always has that kind of huge change. It's not like Mario where you just expect more of the same, just, hopefully with a slightly new mechanic that will kind of carry. Zelda's like new theme, new style, new everything. Yeah, it's the same story like Mario where it's like Link saves Zelda or something like that, Ganon. But like, the fact that like we went from literally Twilight or like, open sea adventuring, or literally just a prehistoric game in the sky. There's so much different than the other. And now, again, the sci-fi's twist. But again, I know both of us, we were hoping for the boots on the ground to come back. And I'm not worried. I feel like if they do give us that, I mean, I'd still be fine with Space Zelda. I'd be really fine with anything because I know they're gonna give it that charm that is just gonna make it magical. It's you're gonna look at, like when you look at the Sheik attack, it's like and the Zonite, it hits differently than like how other sci-fi. Nintendo has that like swagger that they put in Zelda that is just unlike any other franchise.
I've always felt that. No, I've always felt that.
Nintendo.
I don't know. Well,
Okay, good.
well, yeah, we are biased Nintendo, of course. That's not even worth debating. But I've always felt Zelda in particular, out of all Nintendo's franchises, it's like this is the one we like flex with. This is like whatever the best we can possibly do at this moment in time. You'll see that in Zelda. And that's usually been the case. Whatever generation it is, like this is like the highest quality. Whether, obviously a lot of people, myself included, probably thinks Mario Galaxy is a better game than Skyward Sword, for example. But, like, no one could argue that Skyward Sword is, like, a badly built experience, It's, like, completely flawlessly built from the ground up. And, like, it's always, it's not, it's a little bit of an easy target, like a low-hanging fruit. But, like, looking at the games that Pokemon fans have to kind of endure, like, obviously the gameplay apparently of the new Pokemon games is great. I haven't played a Pokemon game in a long time, but like just seeing how they look,
you're not missing out
compared to what Zelda fans get all the time. We're spoiled really with like the quality of games we get on a consistent basis. There's no reason to believe that'll change in the future.
Yep, even to the lower budget games, again, like Echoes of Wisdom and A Link to the Past, or Link's Awakening remake, and then you look at the Pearl and Diamond remakes, and it's like, it's Zelda has that, and I guess you could also argue, it's because it's made by actual Nintendo and not Game Freak, and Nintendo knows how to optimize games perfectly, because you can also use the argument that Monolith Soft, they're a bit closer in terms of like a subsidiary towards Nintendo versus like Game Freak. I'm pretty sure Game Freak still is, right? Nintendo owns Game Freak.
I'm sure they do, sure. Again, correct us if we're wrong, but I think they do.
But like the Xenoblade games are like the second best looking games. Same thing with the Retro Studio when they make like Metroid. Those games look insane. So like there are certain other subsidiaries that have that Nintendo like just finesse. But sadly, Game Freak is not even close to there. And I legit feel like their newer games wouldn't have been as hated legit if they just actually looked like what they intended for them to look, because it looks like literally what I feel like Scarlet and Violet is like. They had it looking really good, and they're like, okay, it's not running well. Let's remove the shadows. Let's lower the quality.
Sure
it's like when you have a crappy computer and you're just trying to get it to work. You have to see like
exactly.
That's literally what it feels like.
It's bizarre. Which considering it's like the highest grossing Nintendo franchise, or I don't know. Very strange. But let's not go down that rabbit hole.
Because they can get away with it.
Exactly.
True. But speaking of Zelda getting the best treatment, you'd think they're gonna get it in the movie as well. Like, this is Nintendo giving us a live action. Should we start talking about that?
So obviously since last podcast we've got a little bit more news on the Zelda movie. It was so fun. Nintendo, they announced this at the end of last Nintendo Direct, last Switch 1 Nintendo Direct. You have Miyamoto turn up on screen, and he's always got something big to announce whenever he actually shows up in person in a Direct. So I think everyone's like, they see Miyamoto, they're on the edge of their seat. Think, what was it? Is it going to be like, are they going to announce the new Mario game? Is it going to be, I don't know, is it going to be something massive? And it's Nintendo Today, the new Nintendo mobile app. I hope you'll enjoy.
Right.
And it's all, okay, cool, right? Maybe it means they're fleeing Twitter. I don't know, but like, they're doing their own news now. Why not? So like, everyone downloads the app and like has a little, refresh it every day, see what there is. Then like 2 days later, they drop the release date of the Zelda movie out of the blue on this app. So was it March 27th, 2027?
Yes.
Or March 26th, 2027? I should know this.
2027. I think it's you should.
I'm pulling it up.
We should both know this. I think March 26th, 2027.
26th of March 2027. Yeah.
Yes.
So so we've got a release date, which is crazy because we know nothing really about the game, about the film, other than that it's live action. It's directed by a man called Wes Ball, who did Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes and the Maze Runner films. He's a big CGI guy, Wes Ball. So I'd imagine that he's going to be quite hands-on in bringing Hyrule to life. Something, a world as fantastical as Hyrule. You can't really base a real world, you need some extra CGI magic, I think, to bring somewhere like Hyrule to life, and I think he's the man to do that. So I don't know how you're feeling about it, but I'm cautiously optimistic. I do think that I want to believe this will be a good film, because I think there is the material there. The man in charge of it, the director, he is actually a Zelda fan. I know that every director if you took anyone in the world and gave them this role, in interviews they'd say, I love Zelda, he's my favorite. You know, they'd pretend to be a
even
Zelda
if they
fan
don't.
sort of thing, even if they don't.
I used to jump on Goombas, Koopas.
Yeah, exactly. I still love that. I love how he says Koopas like it's a slur. It's so funny. But yeah, like any director would have said that. But we know that at least as far back as 2010, Wes Ball was a Zelda fan and wanted to direct a Zelda film. So it does seem that this guy's pretty genuine about his love for the series, which makes me think that it's in good hands. I don't know how you feel about it overall.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I still can't say anything until we actually see like anything. We haven't seen anything. Okay, now we know the release date, less than 2 years. So, I mean, the marketing better start soon. Usually, like when they announce a movie, it's usually a year before it comes out, sometimes 2. And it's like, so we're approaching that time where even maybe the next Nintendo Direct, we should expect Miyamoto to pop in and say, Tom Holland's a really cool guy, you know, he's going to be playing. Hopefully not, though. Hopefully not. But yeah, I mean, we don't even have a logo. You could argue that the logo they showed on the Nintendo Today app was
that was a new graphic, right? But I don't think that'll be the Zelda movie logo. Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting because obviously we know that there's the Mario Bros. Movie 2 coming in 2026, which currently we don't know anything.
Yoshi's in it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
There you go. Huge. Yeah.
No, the worst post-credit scene of all time. Dude, it's like, okay, Yoshi egg.
You think I was? Maybe I'm just easily pleased. Then I was really happy. I was like, yo.
I don't.
You know, like a Marvel fan sees Thanos at the end. Say that was me with the Yoshi egg. You know, but yeah, I don't know. So I think we are kind of off to the races a bit now, that any time we can expect to see some Zelda movie news. I'd expect, you know, logically you'd think we'd see something more about the Mario Bros. Movie 2 before the Zelda movie, because it's releasing before, but I don't know, like a cast announcement or something. I don't think it's unreasonable to think we'll see that pretty soon, which is really interesting, because there was, so I don't know whether this is legit or whether it was a rumor, because there's some website, I off the top of my head I can't remember, but either way, some website posted up news article, a couple of interesting details about the Zelda movie. So there was a synopsis of the plot, which is really basic. It's exactly what you'd expect. It's, you know, Link in the magical land of Hyrule, and Ganon covets the legendary Triforce. It's exactly what you'd expect. It's like, it could be the summary of the series as a whole, for example. It's that much of a basic plot synopsis. And then it gave us information that this might be part 1 of a trilogy, and that it's going to be filmed at the end of this year in New Zealand. So again, take this all with a pinch of salt, because I really don't know if this is confirmed. It's just this one website that posted it up, and apparently this is one. It's a little bit of like a, you know, Wikipedia situation. I think whereas like anyone can add information to this site, but it is interesting nonetheless. How do you feel about the new info we may or may not have gotten?
True. So immediately it gave me Lord of the Rings vibes.
For sure.
Trilogy,
New Zealand,
fancy films,
you know,
filmed back to back, all probably written. I mean, obviously Lord of the Rings, they had the books to go off of, so it's not like it had to be, you know, but it's not to be directed. What are we saying? And it's funny, when we both of us first heard the Zelda movie, the first thing we thought of is like, well, if it's like Lord of the Rings and the adaptation they gave us from this book series, they could do something like that with the video game series. We're in good hands, because till this day, those are visually some of the best movies. It is insane how good they did. Like,
they're my favorite
practical
films
effects,
of all time, like the Lord of the Rings films.
I'm with you, man. Yeah, if anything, it's insane. The way Frodo literally looks like a hobbit, the way like the depth perception. It's so good, because when you rewatch it today, you see zero flaws, and that's not something you can say with many movies that are that old. Like it's insane. But yeah, so if they give it that love and care, and again, New Zealand is the closest thing we have to, you know, Hyrule in real life. Then it will. I can see it being really well done. But again, my biggest worry is just who they cast as Link. We need, again, a Frodo. We need someone like that just genuinely is a new character. Again, ruin this Hollywood actor's career and have him forever be typecasted as Link and never get another job. Who cares, bro? That's the dream. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. I agree with you. Yeah. I don't want, Tom Holland, Timothy Chalamet, anyone that's like a big name sort of thing. I think there will be big names in it, especially if you take the Mario movie as an example. They couldn't have gone more big league than, Chris Pratt and Anya Taylor-Joy and Jack Black and people like that. So I think we will get, inevitably get some big characters. I just wonder if, some big actors, I just wonder if, you're right, it would be best to cast an unknown as Link. I think...
Just not our boy. Just have The Rock play Ganon. I don't care. Just don't ruin Link. Link. Don't have John Cena.
Yeah.
Chris Pratt. I don't get none of them, please.
Because one thing now that it does seem that in today's world, to get a successful video game movie, you need Jack Black. That seems to be the formula. We had the Mario movie and then the Minecraft movie. Like Minecraft's on pace to be like one of the highest grossing films ever. Mario did what, like $1.1 billion or something. Mario made like infinity money as well. As much of me that says, there's no way Jack Black turns up in the Zelda film, I know now not to bet against Jack Black being added to a video game film. Yeah. Whereas, I don't know. Yeah. I think he could do a good Goron. If he's like a voice actor for a CGI Goron, I think he'd do alright. Just as long as he doesn't sing, as long as he's like tones down the Jack Black levels a little bit. Whereas like Mario and Minecraft, he was kind of just let go and like do your thing, do your Tenacious D stuff.
Right. Yeah. Have you seen it?
I haven't.
No,
I haven't seen it. I'm a little bit. Yeah. I don't want to go and get chicken jockeyed, and get like drinks poured on my head and stuff. So I might wait till all that calms down a bit before I go and see it.
Watch it at home instead.
Yeah.
You can just, get sidetracked if it's not hitting.
That's it. Yeah. Well, I see you haven't seen it then either.
Yeah, no. I don't watch any movies in theaters. I mean, Zelda will be the one exception.
Oh, yeah.
Probably going to watch it with my kid. That'll be his first movie, I imagine. For me, it was literally The Lion King, and I have vivid memories of, not vivid, just more so vague.
Right. But like early memories.
Like a screenshot in my brain of just me looking at the giant theater.
Yeah.
And like kind of just seeing it in the big screen.
That's
I hope that's literally one of
There's
my kids'
nothing more
first
fitting
memories.
than Zelda. Yeah, which not long, 2027, which less than 2 years. It does feel weird. Like I said earlier, to know so little about the film, but also know exactly the day it's releasing. Which obviously, we're Zelda fans, we're used to delays and stuff, so I wouldn't be surprised. It'd kind of be weird if the Zelda movie came out with no delays, right? It's the dumb thing for Zelda games. So why not a Zelda movie as well? But yeah, overall, I'm really excited because I think, like, obviously the Lord of the Rings parallels, like we were saying, were huge. Are huge, but like the Lord of the Rings films were like the biggest thing in the world when they came out, and they're still so culturally relevant in the way that, like, obviously the Lord of the Rings books were gigantic, like phenomena when they came out, and like even afterwards, Lord of the Rings was the work of fantasy that so many other things were based on. Then it felt that the films kind of reinvigorated that for younger people perhaps who hadn't read the books, or like a kind of new audience, and that's kind of,
I don't read.
Fair enough. Which is kind of what the Zelda movie will be for a lot of people, in the same way that you had the Zelda series has been the groundwork, the foundations for so many other fantasy games and so many action adventure games or whatever. It's been, it's started in 1986. It's this really old video game series, kind of steeped in history. And then you'll get this second wind with the movie. I hope we get a Lord of the Rings situation where it's like, it's so good that it's kind of placed on a pedestal as high as, Lord of the Rings films, Lord of the Rings books. Kind of people think they're kind of, they're both incredible. I hope we get a similar situation where people see the films as good as the games, but I don't know. Even if they're bad, it doesn't change the games. We can still play our Wind Waker and Ocarina of Time and stuff. Like, the movie won't affect that. But if it's good, it'll kind of put Zelda in a spotlight in the way that it hasn't really been before. Because games can get pretty big. Like, mainstream games are pretty massive, but a live action film has the chance to go like so mainstream, it's kind of incredible. Or like, if this movie hits, Zelda will be like thrown into the stratosphere. It'll be like the thing, which is crazy. So I'm a little bit anxious in that Zelda's kind of, it's like my baby. It's like, it's what I've obsessed about my whole life. I feel a bit nervous, but I'm also, but I'm also, we'll have to start saying we were fans before it was cool, which we kind of had to say after Breath of the Wild as well, because that kind of launched the series into new heights, but that'll be nothing compared to the movie, like how popular this series will get.
Yeah, no, an emphasis on it being live action. I like how even in the announcement they write it in the bottom.
Yeah.
And I know most Zelda fans argue like if it's not live action, if it was a Ghibli style, that would be so much better. And of course it would, because they can literally have Link not speak. It's going to be hard to be able to translate that in a live action. It would seem kind of weird, but like you look at other movies that literally have silent protagonists in like anime or cartoon, it's much easier. And if there's a voice actor, you're not really seeing them play it. He can get away with literally grunting and all of that. But like, yeah, again, it being live action is going to open up to a completely different audience that literally literally bring it to new heights that we've never seen. And it's crazy because the biggest Zelda has gotten was like Breath of the Wild, kind of pivoting away from a more focused story, and it kind of introduced a whole new audience that didn't care too much about the puzzle solving or like the cryptic nature of the game, and just kind of wanted to enjoy it. And I feel like that's the same thing they're trying to do with the live action. They want it, and if so, I mean, it's going to set a new standard, and I hope it starts like a whole new trend of like movies like that. Obviously, if it's good, because like I'm immediately thinking of like the next thing they can do is like Metroid. Metroid would fit so well in the live action setting, right? And it would be insane. I imagine Alien, but with Samus, right? Like an Alien's such an amazing, like it's it would be so dope to see. And then so again, go ahead.
It's kind of the discussion's a bit done to death on the internet, but it kind of feels inevitable that if the Zelda movie's good, and then if they move out into other IPs like Metroid and that's good, a Smash film, like an Avengers level event, is kind of inevitable, right? That they'll try and bring things together. Because they're trying to do, it feels like now with Zelda being a thing, kind of feels like the start of like an NCU situation, like bringing all these IPs onto the big screen, which, I don't know, I'm a little bit nervous, obviously, but I am excited. I think it's it'll be a really cool thing to see. Just sitting there in the cinema, watching Link pull the Master Sword. I don't know. It's gonna be surreal, man.
Yeah. Are you still banking on it being like an Ocarina of Time adaptation, or
I don't know.
You think they're just gonna go a completely new direction?
I really don't know. I think it'll be Ocarina of Time-ish in a way that Ocarina of Time kind of was the definitive version of so many of like the core elements of Zelda that like you can't really have Zelda without now, like the iconic Master Sword pull, for things like that. Because I think those elements will be in it. I think we'll see Link pull the Master Sword and things that I think there'll be little bits where he'll figure something out and you'll hear the puzzle jingle. I think all that will happen. So I think whether or not it is an explicit retelling of Ocarina of Time, I think it will be Ocarina of Time coded, like kind of follow loosely that story structure and stuff, just because out of all the Zelda games, that is like the Zelda story. It's like the iconic one, right? So I think it's
the true foundation. Navi, all of that. When you hear Link, usually people think of that. Or even when you look at any Zelda-like inspired video game, the inspiration is from Ocarina of Time usually. Like, that's the basis. Whether it's like Link in the Tunic or all the kind of fairy boy concept. It's just like that screams the Link that, kind of took off. I mean, again, for me, it's like, like you said, I look at it as a positive thing nonetheless, because no matter what, this is just more Zelda content. I think I'm going to enjoy. I am worried, though, if the rumors are correct and it's being a trilogy, it's like, that's a lot to kind of space out. Again, I immediately think of like the Final Fantasy trilogy that they're making with Final Fantasy VII and the remakes, and it took a really good story and it literally like is just pulling and making it way too long. And like they don't have the Lord of the Rings books adaptation.
Well, like the Lord of the Rings had that. Lord of the Rings, in that there's so much content that 3 films. I mean, it's 3 books. The Lord of the Rings. It made sense to have a trilogy of films. But then they did The Hobbit, which is 1 book that is shorter than any of the 3 Lord of the Rings films.
Right.
And they stretched that into 3 films, and it's. I think The Hobbit 1 is okay. There's elements that I don't love about it, but then, as for someone as big of a Tolkien fan as I am, I just don't care about the other Hobbit films, which feels so terrible to say. Like, to say that there's this kind of big scale Tolkien adaptation. It was done by Peter Jackson, but it's just so stretched out, and like I don't know. It's just not the one. And yeah, that is a hole they could fall down. You know, if they do make a trilogy for the sake of it being a trilogy, rather than thinking we've got triple the amount of content for like one film, let's just spread it out over 3. That's the way it should be done, rather than like kind of reverse engineering a trilogy in a way. See, I really hope.
What if it was the whole Zelda timeline?
Well, then it's got to be like 25 films. I think, just
yeah, true. But I doubt they would go. I hope they just stick to one Link incarnation in the movie. We're not gonna get multiple ones. Time travel would be fine, but it'd have to be like the way they did it with Ocarina of Time. But yeah, I wouldn't want it to be like that. I want the Zelda movie to feel like so much happened that it was all condensed into one thing. Because it does get prolonged again, like the Final Fantasy trilogy. I know those are video games, but still, it felt like there was so much more filler than the base game. I don't want to see that in a Zelda movie whatsoever.
Yep.
Like, I mean, because you could think of it like, oh, maybe like an Indiana Jones style. He's literally solving puzzles, and they're trying to literally recreate the game in a movie form. But like, I don't know. That does sound cool though. Like, that's the thing. I can't even hate on that rumor too much, because it still seems exciting to some extent. You know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, I think you could. There's a lot of potential ways this could go wrong, but I think overall, I'm looking at it in a way that I think there's so many ways it could go right as well. And I hope. I don't know if they. I think maybe it's misplaced, but I do feel confident with Wes Ball. I do think that just having an actual Zelda fan direct it, and he's wanted to direct a Zelda film for so long. I don't know.
Because he literally tweeted it. He literally, like, it's not like, oh, he said it in an interview or something. There's literally actual, like, concrete proof that he's like, I want to direct a Zelda movie 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's like, right? So yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. So 2010. So like 15 years ago, he tweeted that. So you know, he's. I don't know. He's been a Zelda fan for a minute. So I don't know. I do feel confident with him, and like I might have egg on my face a couple of years from now if we get a complete flop. But I don't know. I hope we don't.
I think if it's not going to ruin the Zelda gaming franchise.
That's the right mindset.
And it's more content, to enjoy, whether good or bad. It's kind of like we were talking about with Hyrule Warriors. If it's not actually canon, we're still going to be happy that we're getting some kind of Zelda content that we can just enjoy and, explore more of. Because, at the end of the day, they're all magical to some degree. I'm sure the movie will carry some of that magic. There's no way it's going to be completely lost.
Exactly.
Live action or not. Proof is in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
It can carry so much magic being live action. It doesn't have to be that, like 2D animation or something. Because I feel like that's at least currently, because we haven't seen any of it, that's the biggest controversy the movie's getting. It's like, why Nintendo? Like, you've never given. I mean, I'm also worried, like, if it's like Tom Holland or something, and like we have live action Link, that he could be like a featured character in like Smash Bros. Or Mario Kart or something. It's like you don't get Link anymore. You get like some humanoid version or something.
Yeah.
It's happened. It's literally happened with video games. I don't want, like, with that we have like two Steves. We got Jack Black Steve. We got
OG Steve,
Steve that's based off the GTA character.
Yeah. So I don't know, but very exciting. And like we said, it could be any minute now. Like any direct in the future, we could randomly get big news on the Zelda movie. So it's a exciting time. I don't know. Was there anything else you wanted to cover?
Nah, I guess only time will tell, right? Like, I swear the second we get just a screenshot even of the Zelda movie, I feel like we'll get an idea.
Yeah,
we'll know exactly what to look forward to.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, let us know in the comments what you think, not just about the Zelda movie, but everything we talked about. Age of Imprisonment, you excited? Switch 2. Overall prices, yay, nay. Just let us know your thoughts. It's always fun to read through the comments. But if there's nothing else you wanted to cover, then I don't know. I guess we'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for listening.
Yep. Peace out, guys.